three-time and reigning Great North Wrestling Canadian champion, Black Dynamite, Jeremy Prophet. You guys can bring him on to join Alex and I. He should be appearing any second now. Here he is in a fancy studio, no less. How are you, Jeremy? We cannot hear you, or I can't. Can you, Alex?
Well, I didn't see his mouth move either, so I wonder if he can hear us.
I can definitely hear you guys.
Okay. Maybe I'm imagining, maybe I've had too many concussions because I'm imagining that your mouth is moving. So how are you? You're showing off the pipes today.
Hey, I got to use what works for me. And it's one of the few things I've been able to do during this lockdown is to try and get in the best shape possible. And hopefully once wrestling comes back, then, I can show people that I haven't just been sitting around on a couch eating chips and donuts like 3/4 of the wrestlers are doing out there.
I'm looking at Alex's arms compared to yours, and there's quite a contrast.
Let's go!
Hey, not bad, not bad.
I have nice soccer mom arms.
Yeah. I see the punching bag there in the back. I mean, are you a boxer, martial artist? You got any skills like that we don't know about?
Yeah, I've been throwing some 1-2s at the bag as often as I can during lockdown.
He can also vomit on people if they cause him any trouble, apparently. You could have been the real Puke. Remember Puke, speaking of bad gimmicks? Mm-hmm. You could have done that.
Draws, they switched it to. Very smart.
Jeremy, do you think they forgave D'Lo too easily for breaking Draws' neck?
Well, I mean, we don't know the circumstances around how it happened. The match never even aired. So, we know it's not ballet in there. We know that we have to take care of our opponents, but accidents can happen. So you can't hold it against the guy forever. And I think he got punishment enough. I mean, after that, his career kind of went downhill. He was in lowdown wearing a turban by the end of it. So it's not as though they really praised him after this whole thing happened. In fact, I think he paid for it a lot longer than he should have.
So is this your bedroom that you're in right now?
No, this is actually the set of a pod of the JoFo podcast. I've been doing some work with them, some interviews as of late. And I just think it's a more professional place to be doing one of these. No offense to, is it Alex? Is that your name? Yeah. See, I did my homework before coming on the air. No disrespect to Alex or anyone who does interviews like that, but I think, the people should be able to see something a little worthwhile here in the background if they don't like looking at my face.
Well, he's got the punching bag in the background. That's pretty legit.
Yep.
Who's your favorite boxer, Jeremy? I know you've done some boxing and kickboxing training.
Yep. For the longest time, my favorite boxer was Bernard Hopkins, the Executioner. Just loved his style, loved as much what he did in the ring as he did outside the ring, and the longevity that he had too. I'd really wanted to go see him box when he was in Quebec City, when he fought Jean Pascal. Didn't get the opportunity to go see it, but I would have loved that because Bernard Hopkins was someone that even in wrestling, like I take a lot of inspiration from his approach when he would go in there and fight people and he would, cut him down on the mic and stuff and then actually deliver when the bell rang.
True. As far as what you've been doing during this lockdown, I've seen you've been doing a lot of videos with former Quebecer Pierre-Carl Ouellette. He's now doing like superhero type videos, I guess, and you're the super villain.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got connected with him. It was random. It was actually through Jason, through Dark Cash. He called me up one day and said, hey, PCO is looking for some guys to beat up more or less. And my role in the show was supposed to just be a one-off, but I sat down and talked with Carl and, I'd wrestled with him before in GNW. In fact, for as long as we've both been in the wrestling business, that was the only time I got to step in the ring with Carl on 2 occasions in Great North Wrestling. So that helped me get to know him a bit better. And we sat down and talked on the set of the episode that we were supposed to do. And him and Destro just said, well, we need a villain. We need a main character for us to go after. And, we'd like to offer it to you. So I was thrilled by that. Turned it from a one-off into, I think I appeared in something like, 12 or 15 episodes. And it's a lot of fun to get to work with him. And not only am I a character in that, but I also pitch in on the creative side too. So there are some things that you see there that are my ideas. But yeah, that's been something that's been occupying a lot of my time. It's kind of replaced wrestling since we're all under lockdown here. Aside from that, there's not been much connection that I've had with wrestling other than that and doing a few podcasts here and there.
I see. I was asking Alex earlier about the three lamest wrestling characters he's seen over the years, and I'm curious what yours would be.
Oh, well, I mean, there's been a lot over the years. One that always stuck out to me as being really stupid was TL Hopper, the wrestling plumber. I thought that was really dumb. Worst characters. There was one in WCW, the Yeti, which was like a giant mummy. I think it was Ron Reese as a mummy. And he did this thing where he hugged Hogan along with Big Show. That was pretty lame. And if you want a current one, I don't know, maybe you get a kick out of this, but there's always Joey Ryan. You know, that's
oh God,
that kind of stuff was pretty lame too. So
at least he's finally been outed.
Yeah, as have a lot of people, because what can I say? You know, the wrestling business is filled with all kinds of shady characters, and I think it's good that people speak out. And it's a shame that two hardworking guys like you and I, you know, don't have a job with one of those bigger companies, but then you have all these other rapists and sex offenders and closeted sex offenders, whatever you want to call them, all these perverts ascending to these positions and getting hired to big time contracts, while the ones doing the honest work here and not causing that kind of trouble are still stuck on the sidelines. So, you know, it's good to see justice being served. It means more work for us, which is a good thing. And I think wrestling needed that cleansing that came from the Speaking Out movement.
Alex, did you ever see Joey Ryan do his little gimmick where I guess his whole gimmick was he wanted people to grab his dick because his dick had like superpowers or whatever, according to the gimmick, and it turned out he ended up with like 17 accusers against him of various sexual deviant stuff.
Yo, that is not a good look. At least the order was that. It would have been way worse if it was the other way around. Like, let's try and make something off of this, okay? I just Googled TL Hopper. I never saw him before. Say what you will about him, no one has ever looked at like perfectly suited for a gimmick like that. Like Glenn Jacobs as Kane is now number 2 to me. TL Hopper's now number 1. That guy looks like a plumber.
True. And actually Kane had a really bad gimmick too before as the dentist, Isaac Yankem, before he was Kane. And the fake Diesel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we blocked that out of our minds. Jeremy, who are some of the most famous wrestlers you've been in the ring with for people that don't know? We all know Coco Beware is one of the highlights of your career.
It always surprises me to see that video has so many hits where I tell it like it is about Coco. But, you know, I've been in the ring with a litany of top wrestlers, Hall of Famers, if you will. You know, I've faced, I guess the most high profile I would say is probably Rey Mysterio, since he is a former world and WWE champion. I had the privilege of being in the ring with him couple years back. Scott Steiner on 3 occasions for your company, Great North Wrestling. In fact, most of the big names I've been in the ring with have been in Great North Wrestling, and I thank you for those opportunities that you gave me. But yeah, tons of big names. I'm always at a loss for, you know, names because there's so many, but I could go through them. Chavo Guerrero, Carlito, Val Venus, Lanny Poffo, you know, who was once our good friend. I think maybe you and him have mended fences, but
no, we haven't.
No, you have.
No, we haven't. We do not talk to each other.
I always found that strange how Lanny, you know, kind of disassociated himself from us, despite all the great matches I had with him.
When he got back with WWE, when he got back on good terms with WWE, he wanted to kind of whitewash everything he did in the past because he was very anti-WWE before.
Well, not surprising he wouldn't be if they signed him up and gave him a payday. Either way, I mean, you know, I look back at Lanny, like I said, I enjoyed those matches I had with him. I enjoyed traveling with him. And I don't hesitate to mention him because he's Lanny Poffo. He's the Macho Man's brother. He's the genius, you know, and a lot of these people I think of that I faced, just trying to pull out a few more names, where Bobby Lashley, the Almighty, you know, faced him. Even for the AEW fans out there, I faced a lot of their guys, Lance Archer, which was in WWE, a tryout that I had back in 2010. Kurt Hawkins was his partner. I faced Mark Quinn from Private Party, The Machine, Brian Cage. I could go on and on about these guys who are now in these prominent positions in top companies, whether it be WWE, AEW, Impact, all the big companies out there that, maybe one day you and I will be working for.
Sylvain Grenier, too, who was recently fired by WWE as a producer. I guess probably Pat Patterson probably got him rehired there. And when they found out Patterson was about to go, they probably got rid of him.
Oh, I didn't know that he was fired. I thought he was still working there. But
the last I heard, well, Renee told me he's not working there anymore. Renee Dupree told me that. And he also said that Sylvain worked a recent Impact taping as a French commentator.
I did see the thing about the French commentators. It was supposed to be him and Marc Blondin, but I heard they had some difficulties that it didn't end up working. That's what I heard from the fans around here that wanted to listen to Impact in French. But maybe it's a work in progress. Things are on the up and up for Impact. So good to see Sylvain still finding his way in wrestling. He did a lot of good for me, as did Pat. They helped me with a lot of tryouts. I've not had very much help in the wrestling business. Something you can also relate to here. We've been two guys who are kind of self-made men, doing things our own way and trailblazing. But Sylvain and Pat would be two of the people that actually did help me out to a certain extent, put in words for me here and there. And I do feel my first tryout I did in Florida, because they refused me initially. If you can believe that, a talent of my caliber, and they refused me. But
that was the one Jinder Mahal was signed from, right?
Yes, correct. The one where I had faced Jinder in the final match of the camp, and he was hired. I was initially refused, and then they changed their mind. And somewhere along the lines, I know that Sylvain had said that Pat had spoken to them. And so that's the way it happens. I mean, for a fact that he had a lot of influence, Pat Patterson. He thought very highly of you at the camp that you had done for WWE, which was the one just before. And, I've heard it said that WWE is kind of, it's like the mafia, it's who you know and who can get you in. And if it's someone with enough stroke, then what they say goes, and that's all there is to it.
Now, speaking of stroke, Alex, did you ever hear about Lanny Poffo's secret talent?
No.
Jeremy, I know we had to take this video down before because at that time, Lanny and I were on good terms, but could you tell the story, keeping in mind that we're on TV here?
I mean, it's a well-known story. You could easily, Google Lanny Poffo talent.
I mean, your car ride where he decided to divulge that to you in a bit of an awkward way while you were in a car alone with him.
Yeah, well, without recreating it too much here, I'm not one to plead the fifth on these kinds of things, but we did have a car ride and the topic did come up. And I always found it funny that the way he said it was he brought up, did you know that I'm known for a talent? And I believe he said that Missy Hyatt had written about it in her book. And by the way, did you ask Missy Hyatt about it when you had interviewed her?
I did not. I wiped it out of my memory by that time.
See, this is why you should let me, submit some questions to those interviews, or maybe I should pay attention more and get those in there, because she was a credible source on that, where she mentioned Lanny Poffo, Virgil, and I want to say Too Cold Scorpio.
Sid confirmed the Virgil.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I never heard that about Scorpio.
Well, Mick Foley wrote about Scorpio in his book. So I'm pretty sure anyone out there, while we keep this TV friendly, wants to Google Virgil, Too Cold Scorpio, Lanny Poffo, you'll find what they all have in common. And so Lanny kept going on about this talent that people seem to believe that he has. It's an urban legend at that point. And he mentions it. And I decide, well, I'm not going to just go ahead and say that, because maybe benefit of the doubt, he might be referring to something else. So
this was before it was out on YouTube, by the way, because this was still fairly early 2000s, right?
Yep.
You couldn't just Google it and a million videos show up.
Yeah, this was pre-YouTube, pre-HD TV even, if I'm not mistaken. And so he had mentioned this urban legend, and then he went on to describe what he referred to in his own words as autofellatio, which I think we can say that on the air.
Yeah.
And so he describes that, and we have a little laugh about it. And then he just kind of turned to me and he said, but the truth is I can do it. And whether it's that I'm, just that flexible or just that well endowed, it can be done. And that's really all it is, So again, it's something that I'm sure, if you get a hold of Missy Hyatt again, I'm sure you could ask her, and I'm sure she could either confirm or refute that. But I mean, I got it from the horse's mouth. Whether it was true or not, I don't know, but that's what was said.
I do remember that the thing that I found interesting about the way he told it to you was it's just you guys in a car, and it's like a little awkward to hear that alone with a man that's 30 years older than you, or maybe even 40 years older than you. I don't know.
Well, it is what it is. I enjoyed hanging out with Lanny. I thought he was a real blast, a real fun guy to have on the road. And, we were with him in New Brunswick, here in Montreal. You brought him in. There was a lot of shows in Hawkesbury and Ottawa. And I thought he brought he brought something good to the locker room. He was funny. He was wise, and he had a good knowledge of wrestling too. I don't have many bad memories of Lanny. I just think it's unfortunate that he disowned us the way he did.
I actually like having him around. He is a funny guy, but I heard Bushwhacker Luke say this, and it is true. If there's any females around, he'll hit on them mercilessly, and not necessarily in a speaking out type of way, but like he'll hang around them and he'll be full of compliments, full of songs, as we saw in New Brunswick.
Well, I think you have a video of him in a canoe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Singing Old Man River with a young lady who's still currently wrestling now and doing pretty well for herself. But yeah, I'm sure if you wanted to dig up that clip, we could show everyone an example of his eccentric personality.
Yeah, he's eccentric, all right.
Can I just say though, for the record with Lanny, I never witnessed him do anything inappropriately or make any kind of unwanted advance on anyone. And I spent a good amount of time with him and with you on those shows. Never saw anything like that. So
if you didn't see it, he can take care of it himself.
Yeah.
Well said.
I do. The only thing that he did that was, I guess he was helping her. When he's helping her out of the canoe, he does the old push on the ass.
Really?
Yeah. If you watch, this is the funniest part. Out of he's paddling around in the pond with the canoe. Then they get to the side, and she starts walking up the hill, and he like takes his hand and gives her a push on the ass to get up the hill.
Well, that's terrible. Wow.
Maybe he was legitimately trying to help her. Who knows?
I remember that I think he ended up having to pay for one of the paddles of the canoe because he got so caught up in the video he was filming that they didn't notice that the paddle, either he or the girl put down the paddle and it started sailing down the river. And then he got out and he attempted to get it, but he got blown up as he was trying to get to it. And then it just ended up sailing into the distance, and he ended up having to pay. I think he had to pay like $75 for it or something like that.
Yeah, those New Brunswick events were adventures. They're very backwoods people there. Well, we were literally in the backwoods of New Brunswick. Have you ever performed comedy up there, Alex, at all?
Oh yeah, I've done St. Andrew, New Brunswick, and that's like in this resort that's like in the backwoods for sure. Yeah,
strange bunch up there. Tell us a joke about someone from New Brunswick.
So wait a second. Let me think. Where New Brunswick? I always get them all confused. You know what I mean?
It's not Nova Scotia. It's above Quebec.
Yeah, no.
Give everyone a geography lesson.
It's always New Brunswick and Nova Scotia that get me. But when I was in New Brunswick and I was just finished a show and I was drinking with the dude, and what the hell's his name again? But anyways, actually, I probably should. Well, anyway, so we're talking, and then I was like, oh, he tells me his last name. And I was like, oh, do you know actually my Colin O'Brien? And then he was like, no, we all don't know each other out here. That's not how it works. Like, I was like, okay, sorry, man. And then he's like, well, what do you he got actually mad at me. He's like, everybody on the East Coast, like, that's like racism. I was like, okay, it's not racism, but I was like, I get what you're saying. I'm sorry. And then 2 seconds later, I was just like, it's just like, yeah, man, I played hockey with him and my other buddy who like grew up here, Sean Hogan. And then he was like, okay, well, that's my cousin. I was like,
Oh,
well, you can't be mad at me for asking about the other dude then. He's your first cousin.
that's just like with Jeremy. I'm sure you can identify with this. Wrestlers in Canada, if you go to the US or you go to the UK, they seem to think that we're all friends and we all know every single wrestler in Canada, like from the bottom of the card to the top.
Yeah, I don't think they realize how big the country is, but I think that that's a geographic thing for just about anywhere. I mean, if I know a wrestler from England and let's say he's from Leeds, to me, you know, London and Manchester and Northampton and all these places, they all just kind of blend into one. I wouldn't think their scene is as big as it is, but it's like here in Canada, you know, maybe the people in Quebec and the bordering states, bordering provinces like Ontario, New Brunswick, there might be some overlap, but you know, 3/4 of the people out west, you know, we don't know who they are. We don't know their scene. I couldn't even tell you one wrestler from BC, and that's just me. You know, like it's not that big of a scene, and not everyone can go everywhere because there's so much distance in between it. It's not like in the US where it's closer knit and closer followed.
First of all, Alex, I just have to tell you I'm being spanked here or scolded by the producer because you said the F word. So we apologize for that. But Jeremy, what's the funniest thing you've seen happen at a Great North Wrestling event? Mine was the infamous Rock Desjardins match that you had.
I actually went over that with my my team here, with my producer and co-hosts. We watched it, and we were actually wanting to do an alternate commentary version of that, where I kind of go more in detail about the whole thing. Definitely got a good laugh out of the crew. But
yeah, that's too long of a story to tell on here, but maybe we'll tell it another time.
My favorite moment to this day is the 6-man tag that you did against 3 guys from up here in Quebec, where you did the atomic wedgie on one of them. And literally, and Alex, you should go find this clip because it's hilarious.
Did it go over the head?
Yeah, I think Jeremy froze up. Oh, we lost Jeremy just as he was about to tell us what happened. You're back.
Am I back? Am I back? Okay, I got to get back to the climax of the story here. So he did a wedgie to this guy and pulled his boxers over his head to the point where it's choking him. So keep in mind, he's still wearing it, and one leg is now simultaneously, his leg is in it, but like half his body is in it, and it's choking him as he's raining down these heavy chops. And I mean, if you've ever seen Devin chop, it's probably the hardest chop in all of wrestling. So this guy's being choked by his own underwear, taking these chops, and that was just part of it. I mean, the whole match is hilarious. They get such a beating, these guys. And a lot of people will probably look at that and say, oh, you know, that was unprofessional, or it was a bullying, all these things they want to say, but they don't know the backstory to it. And I don't even know if you've ever told the backstory to it, about how they were disrespectful in the locker room, how they threw people's bags around, went and put their feet up on the tables. And this is a very nice, classy bar establishment that we were performing in, sports bar.
It was a comedy club, actually.
I kind of thought it was a sports bar. But
half of it was a sports bar, half of it was a comedy club.
Oh, my producer here actually has the clip. He wants to try to embed it so people can see. Oh, we can't. He disabled it. Okay, no, it's been disabled. We can't do it.
I remember that they disappeared after the show, though. I never saw them again after the match.
Well, I mean, one of the things too is that right away at the start, I think you got tagged in. One guy was in a t-shirt. You tore his shirt and chopped him. And you do see on the video, I think he says it in French, but he rolls out of the ring. They go into kind of a huddle, and he's like, guys, let's get out of here. Let's leave. Right from the first chop. Nothing else, no other damage had been sustained by them at that point. Just the first chop, they already wanted to bail. But this was not just, you know, this was in response to them having been disrespectful backstage in terms of their behavior, in terms of their attitude, throwing people's bags, including Jinder Mahal. They threw him and other Raj their bags out of the way, took their spots, put their feet up on furniture, just complete unprofessional behavior. And they got a tuning up in the ring, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious and entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, I think you wrestled Jinder Mahal in a tag team match that night.
I did. Yeah. Another former WWE champion that I had the chance to wrestle. And yeah, that's thanks to you. We were on a couple shows with Jinder. He was a good guy. And that's what helped with the tryout, is that when they paired us up, they didn't know we had already worked together before. I guess proving that maybe some people in Canada, whether East or West Coast, do end up meeting up and know each other. And maybe they assume the same thing, that we wouldn't know each other, but we did. And that's why the match was good. We had a good amount of trust in there, and knew we could go in and deliver.
Did you ever, Alex, get an atomic wedgie given to you on stage, or give one to somebody?
Definitely not on stage, but I have an older brother, so we've been down that road before too.
Yeah. I mean, that would be funny if you're just like giving your speech and someone comes up behind you, pulls it right over your head. It would be funny.
Well, if you next time we were at the Ottawa Club together, we'll work that out.
I actually had a bad experience at the Ottawa Club with a chop. Speaking of Jeremy saying how hard I chopped, there was a manager there. I don't even remember his name. He was also a quote unquote comedian, but he was terrible. But he was introducing me to introduce Hacksaw Jim Duggan one night. You may have heard this story.
No, I didn't.
They turned it into
I know who you're talking about already.
Yeah, because he's terrible, right? So he introduces me because he was on as the opening to introduce Hacksaw, and the crowd starts yelling "chop," and I'm looking at him, and like he's holding his chest out. He's not making any signs that he doesn't want to get chopped. So I chop him. He completely no-sells it. Walks off the stage. Okay, so I don't think anything else about it. Then when I wake up the next morning, I check my email, and the owner of Yuck Yucks shows me this guy, my hand mark on his chest. He went to the hospital. He got x-rays on his chest, all this crap, as if I had actually like committed a serious assault and he might sue me. But this is from a guy that like made no sign for me not to chop him and didn't even sell that he was hurt. But apparently he actually went to the hospital. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to work there anymore, just because of what a baby he was being. But nothing came of it, of course, because there was a chop is a chop. It might sting a little bit, but it's not like I hit him in the face or like.
I was supposed to host that weekend and I couldn't make it. How crazy is that?
Well, that guy's a lot bigger than you, to be fair, though. This was not a small guy. I mean, he was, 230? He's not in shape, but fairly big guy.
Well, I think a lot of people, they underestimate the power of chops, because, it's the one thing where you can turn to the person beside you if you're in an audience at a wrestling show. And, if you have any doubts to the credibility of it, have the person beside you give you a chop with a good amount of force. You're going to feel that. And
sorry, backhand or forehand?
Forehand with your palm. Yeah. I mean, next time your big brother comes around, you can light him up with a good chop and ask him what he thinks of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, he's gained the COVID-15 and then some. I'm fine on him now. I don't need the chop. I'll go right down Broadway.
Now, if you want to see some good chops, you should watch Devin and Terry Funk. And that was a hell of a fight. And he laid in some amazing chops on him in a fight where, Devin, you were fighting for your life in there. Terry wasn't going to go down without a fight.
People always forget that he smashed a glass pitcher over my head, and they give me all the heat because I gave him a couple chops. But you know what? He could have blinded me. He did bust me open off of that. And then there's a lot of comments. There's 5 versions of that video, millions of hits combined. They all hate that you're laughing. Everyone, pandemonium is ensuing. Like the audience, the best part about that incident was regular people in the audience got in to break it up. That's how much people got into that. And you're just sitting back in your chair, cackling away as all this stuff is going on.
And you see, people want to give me heat for that, but they don't understand that is how I react in those situations. It was hilarious. I mean, right from the promo, right from what you said to him before it happened, that had me already in stitches. And then when the whole thing was going down, you know, that's my reaction to it. It's better than Lanny Poffo's reaction to it, where he ran like a scared child to the other side of the room. There's a great shot of him. He ran to hide behind me after I just, you know, lambasted him about how I was going to end his career and put him into an old folks home when I was done with him. I'm his opponent for the next day, and he ran to hide behind me.
That was the funniest part to me. When you look at Lanny's face, there's genuine fear. I saw that happen again too, a second time. There was some incident after a show in Hawkesbury, and I had to like get aggressive with some people, and he runs. He'll like take off if there's any like serious altercation about to take place.
Well, you also had that altercation with him, and I think that was in New Brunswick too.
Yeah,
I was there. Honky Tonk Man was there. He got upset because you tore his shirt and he had no clothes.
It's funny because that was over 10 years ago now, and he said he was too old to wrestle, but before COVID, he was still wrestling.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.